Need to start off by apologising for any background noise you might hear. The weather's pretty terrible here today and it's raining, so it happens. What I want to talk about is using file tilt, tilting the file, why you might do it, some of the advantages you get out of it. The cutter we're looking at right now, it's a 404 cutter, 404 full chisel cutter. We filed with a 5.5mm file, and it's been filed with it held 90 degrees. The file flat. We've gone across. The angles we're concerned with for this are our top plate cutting angle, which is viewed from the inside here, and our side plate angle, which will be viewed from the outside. So I'll spin this around quickly and show you what we've got. Alright, so this is that cutter viewed from the outside. You can see our our side plate angle. When we're talking about side plate angle, we're only really talking about the very, very top. So the only part we're concerning ourselves with, pretty much from the top of that file up. If I can get this to show up. So there we go. You can see that top plate, you can see that side plate angle is right at 60 degrees. This is how a lot of manufacturers recommend that you sharpen a chain. It'll have a 60 degree side plate angle and a 60 degree top plate cutting angle. That's from holding that file flat. The disadvantage of having this 60 degree top plate cutting angle is the way the very point of the corner is sticking out. You can see it's not very well supported. There's not a lot of metal behind that. The greater the angle there, the more fragile the chain is going to be. With a 60 degree angle, the corner enters the wood and it's in there for a while before the side plate severs the wood fibre. So it takes a lot more power from the saw to do this. The corner is more exposed, so it gets damaged quicker. It'll start folding that very little point back. So that's the downside of side plate angle. It is required to a degree with a round file chain. There's nothing we can do to completely get away from it. But we can reduce it and generally increase cut speed whilst doing so, as long as we maintain that 60 degree or better top plate cutting angle. So that's what I want to focus on here. I'm going to show you what happens when I'll mark the cutter up, and I'll try and show you what happens when I start filing with a tilt, how it changes, how the inside of that cutter is formed. We'll get a little more in depth on that as well. Alright, so there's our cutter marked up. I'm going to use the same file that I used when I filed it before. The only difference is we're going to go from going flat to putting some tilt in it. See what we can change. So there's our first pass. We'll swipe through a lot of it. See how we've only done the top plate across to that corner. We haven't gone down the side plate. We also have not got the very top of the top plate here. Again, you can see what we've done. We're getting that top plate. We're barely touching that corner. We're starting to run that side plate angle back. So there you go. You can see what's changed. We've got the top plate. We haven't got the side plate. We're starting to run that corner back. But I'm also starting to run into the issue of clearance. 404 has very big drive links on the top, starting to touch them. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to mark this back up and go down a file size to try and give it an even better representation of what can be done here. Okay, marked it back up. This is that same tooth, so we'd already modified the shape a little there. We've taken side plate out of it. But what I'm doing now is I've gone down to a 5.2mm file, and we're going to try again. Okay, so hopefully it shows up. You can see we've come in through the corner here. We've got all of that. Still haven't got the entirety of the top plate on the outside here. All right, we're making progress, but again, still haven't got all of that top plate. Hopefully, this will give you an idea of what's changing here. If I haven't got the top of that top plate cutting angle yet, that's because there's now even more angle being formed on the underside, or on the front of that top plate. Alright, so that's all of it. I'll just clean this up and we'll have a bit more of a talk about it. Let's have a look at it from this point of view and explain a little bit about why this is beneficial. When a chain cuts, the first thing that hits the wood is that corner. That is where the chip starts. The side plate's job is to sever the fibre, and the top plate cutting angle, which is that angle down through the front there, its job is to plane out a wood chip. The chip starts to form out at the corner, and then it's severed by the top plate cutting angle. For the chip to get out of the cutter, it needs to travel through the underside of the top plate and the top of the drive link here. That is called the chip channel. It gets carried out. It should fall out through there, and with any luck, it will be carried out on the blank strap behind, being pushed along by the front of the following depth gauge, which is why they're called rakers and drags and 15 other things, because they have 2 different jobs. So they've got 15 different names. So if we look at the shape we've formed now, coming up with the file on an angle, and with that slightly smaller diameter, we also get the benefit of forming a shape through the inside of the corner that allows that chip to flow through more efficiently. So I'll move the camera back to the inside, we'll have a look, and then we'll flip it around and look at the side plate. Here we are looking back at the inside at the top plate cutting angle. Hopefully I can get something to compare it. There has been an increase in that top plate cutting angle, that angle coming down through here. We've increased that, and you can see how it's curling across to the side. So that's the start. Let's view it from the side plate. Here we are looking at the side plate. You can see there's less of a point on it. We've managed to roll it back, give it a bit more support. That angle has been reduced from the 60 that it was before. It's probably more in line with about 70, but I don't have that marked on this gauge. Not quite 75. So yeah, that's the idea behind using the tilt. If you're looking for more information on this, Valorb, the file manufacturer, has a good video up on YouTube explaining the different cutting angles and the effect on speed and durability that they found when they tested it. A lot of chain manufacturers will tell you to file them with the file held 90 degrees. Things like your Still RS, your Still chains, Husqvarna's doing the same thing. The problem is, what they sell you is not filed in that way. If you look at a new Still RS chain, there is about 15 degrees of tilt there. The Still RM semi-chisels run a tilt, and quite a lot of it. The Husqvarna C85 actually has it tilted the other way, where they have a 60 degree top plate cutting angle but about 50-ish degree side plate. They've tilted it the other way. What they tell you to do is different. Experience with them, there is a video on my channel somewhere. Husqvarna C85 did it on a little 3 horsepower 46cc saw, and there's about a 15% difference filing it the way I do. Still RS, things like that, it's generally the same. All the semi-chisels generally react quite well to this. It's something I do on every chain. I don't care if it's full chisel, semi-chisel, whatever. It's my natural way of filing now. And I do it because I generally get an increase in durability from having less side plate angle and a better supported corner, but you also get an increase in cutting speed. The thing to remember with side plate angle is the more of it you have, the longer the top plate is in the timber before the side plate severs the fibers. What that means for you is it requires more power from the saw. That's fine. If you've got the power to deal with it, it's something you can get away with. I run a lot of short bars on big saws, so it's not really too big an issue. But even on them, I can generally get an increase in cut speed by doing this. If you're running a saw towards its limit of what it can do, if you're using a smaller saw with a long bar and the whole thing's buried, you will notice a bigger difference from reducing that side plate angle than someone with a more powerful saw. What everyone will notice is an increase in durability from getting more support for that corner. The most extreme examples of this is obviously square file full chisel, where you run an 85 or 90 degree side plate with a 50 degree top plate cutting angle. If you could achieve that with a round fold chain, it would be what you'd do. It's not really achievable, so you make the best compromise you can. So yeah, that's it. On a semi-chisel chain, this will result in about an 85 or 90 degree side plate, which is perfect. That's because of the way the corners form. The side plate's down a bit lower, so works out really well on them. On a full chisel, this is about what you can get. That's why you might decide to use a different size file than what's recommended, and you might move away from the recommended sharpening techniques.